us today. We'll begin with the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we will adopt the agenda for today.
Second.
Second, it's been seconded. The agenda has been adopted. Okay. Looks like we have,
You need to call for a vote.
okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. The motion has passed. The agenda has been adopted. Next, we'll move on to public comment. Is Kayleen Komokoro. Hi.
I'm just gonna stand if that's okay.
Okay, good.
Good evening. My name is Kayleen Komogora. I've already submitted my public testimony. I believe most of the board members here have read it and also our superintendent. But I'm here today to present my concerns of religious discrimination and slanderous comments made by school board member Anthony Medina. His campaign vying for House District 22 has sent mailers mudslinging his opponent as being supported by an extremist group who are anti-vax, endangering children and putting our community at risk. It references Tracy Kramer's Facebook post dated April 16th, showing a supportive endorsement from Freedom Believers, a nonprofit organization started by the Russian Old Believers. I am not a representative of Freedom Believers, but I support Freedom Believers in their efforts to bring important information that may affect the Russian Old Believer way of life, especially when it comes to religious freedoms. He has attacked a community who sought refuge from religious persecution, who have settled here in Woodburn. This man who holds a seat on the Woodburn School District is not fit to be making decisions for a school district that has held the most Russian Old Believer student body. The comments made by Anthony Medina's campaign, or supporters of his campaign, are completely not true and is slandering the Russian Old Believer community. Our community has never presented extreme or radical actions or comments as mentioned in Medina's literature. His comments do not represent the mission and vision of the Woodburn School District that supports diversity and empowers equity. Students and families from the Russian Old Believer community are greatly affected by Mr. Medina's comments. He has many times disregarded parental concerns, but today that must stop. He holds prejudice against the Russian Old Believer community and does not have the best interest for our children. How can a board member discriminate against the very students he vowed to support? I urge the school board to investigate the evidence of religious discrimination I have presented and for the resignation of Anthony Medina. Now, I received a phone call from our superintendent stating that Mr. Medina did not know about this hit mailer. I have evidence, photo evidence that he has left. He went canvassing with Richard Walsh, supporting mailers, not the same mailer, but a second mailer referencing Tracy Kramer's post with showing support from the Freedom Believers. So not only is he lying once, but he's lying twice. And this is shameful. That is all that I have to say.
Next is Nick Ovchinnikov.
Sorry, I'm not good at public speaking, my first time speaking, so bear with me. Hello, Woodburn School Board members. My name is Nick Ovchinnikov. I live in Woodburn and have a student in the school district. I am concerned about Anthony Medina's conduct and his ability to represent our diverse community. In a recent mailer, Anthony Medina sent out attacking Tracy Kramer and Freedom Believers, which is a Russian Orthodox nonprofit. It describes as putting our community at risk and that we are anti-science extremists. Does Anthony Medina believe that the Russian Old Believer community students and parents are extremists. The mailer describes us as endangering children. This kind of discrimination is uncalled for by Anthony Medina, and he should apologize and resign from this board. My grandparents came to Woodburn as immigrants to escape persecution for their religious beliefs. Why is Anthony Medina attacking me as an extremist for exercising my constitutional rights? I have the right to choose if my child gets vaccinated or does not, and should not get discriminated against for doing so. I should not be labeled as an anti-science extremist. With Anthony Medina on the board, makes me wonder, why is the Russian program being not provided with the proper staffing and outdoor play equipment it needs? Sorry, I had to do all this before I got off work right after work. So I attached the mailer, and then if you see, it references a Facebook post dated on 4/16, and that post has a picture of me on it. And Savali here, that is, in the sitting here, and I don't think it's proper. I don't think it's right. So I did attach this to my email. You guys should.
That concludes public comment. So we'll move on to a work session, and there's one item for work session.
And we'll bring to the table. Sonia Cool.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to talk with the language program coordinators and what they do. As you all know, there was a language program coordinator half-time position at 4 elementaries and the 2 middle schools, and a half-time as well at the high school. What we did is consolidated that. We now have 2 at the district office. One was transferred into my office, and the other one had actually applied when another language program coordinator left. So I have 2 right now at the Welcome Center. And what is it that they do? The very first thing that they do is we look at a language survey to see if the students are eligible for receiving ESOL. By that, we see if the students have ever had another language other than English at home. And if they do, and if we feel that the language other than English has impacted their ability to learn English, then they will get tested. They get an ELPA testing, unless, of course, they have been in Oregon, one of the Oregon schools, then we can get that from one of the other schools so that we don't have to test them again. But that's a very important thing for us to do. So that way, we test the students at the Welcome Center, and that way they're able to be placed in the right ELD, English Language Development class at the schools. On top of that, we also, it used to be that we used to do the Woodcock Munoz to get their ESOL, English language level. Several years ago, we went to ELPA. It's now an online assessment. Woodcock Munoz was immediate. We got their level immediately. With ELPA, it takes 2 days. Because it takes 2 days, and now the person at the Welcome Center, the language program coordinator, is able to follow up with a phone call to the parent with the results of the test, letting the parent know where their child is in the level of ESOL and what that means. We give them a brief explanation of that before they leave, but then when we call them, then they better understand what we're talking about. At that time, they also, with the language program coordinator, will decide what program they want to be in. The language of instruction, if they want to be in a dual program, if they want to be in English only, and do they want to take RLD, Russian language development, or do they want to be in an English only and take Spanish language development? The other thing is also, like I mentioned, with the test is the language, that English language development. We explain the level that they're going to be in, the progression, yearly progression of language development. And then also we explain to them that there's a letter or a form that they can sign to decline services. At that time, that means if they want to decline services of English language development, then they can, they still have to take the test, but they don't have to be enrolled or in a class for English language development. So that's the initial gathering, making sure that we have the information for the student, that they're placed in the right programs. And then continuation of that. Once we do that, then the language program coordinators will make sure that they were placed in the right ESOL level, that they continue to be in an English language development class. And that, of course, that we've communicated once we get that information to the parents, which is critical. Then again, what is it that we do? We send in the beginning of the year, 30 days. We were a week late this year, but send a notice to all families that comes from the district of the initial placement of the students that just got registered. And then for those that have been here already, a letter of continuation of placement of their language development. So that's something that's monitored here at the district as well. The continuation of also continuing as well to support schools and checking scheduling for English language learners, making sure that honestly that the kids that we're in compliance, that kids are, it's critical that that they're placed in the right level and that they're growing in a proficient manner and making the growth that they should be growing every year. And with that being said, the language program coordinators are now cleaning up. As you all know, with COVID, things change. We were registering paper pencil. There were some things, of course, that went into PowerSchool and the computer, but because of COVID, everything had to go. We did everything online. All the forms that were paper pencil are now online. With this several years of being in COVID, we are now coming back around and we're doing a cleanup. And this is integral. I mean, this is what the language program coordinators are doing right now, is cleaning and making sure that every student that was an English language learner has a profile and all the documentation that's needed in that CUNE folder, so that the blue folder, which is where we store all the EL information, is in the CUNE folder. So there's a lot of cleanup right now, a lot of processes that we're turning around and coming back and doing and supporting the principals as well. Right now, the language program coordinators are doing a lot of site visits with the principals and looking at CUNE folders and making sure that placements are correct, that the letters are in the files. And it's working, it's moving very nicely. I think that they've been a great addition to the Welcome Center. We used to have them before, like 6 years ago, stationed out of the Welcome Center. So now it's nice, and the staff there, they're teaming very well. But anyway, so that in a nutshell is what language program coordinators are doing. Any questions?
Thank you for sharing. Questions? How many, so the testing gets done early on, like when they just come in for new students, right?
Correct.
And then is that done by the coordinators or teachers or?
That's done by one of the homeschool contacts in the Welcome Center.
Oh, okay.
So the language program coordinator is the receiver of then the results of the exam.
So I don't want to interpret the data for parents.
Exactly. And then also making sure that the right kids are being tested, that we have the accurate information, and we're not just relying on the homeschool context, but in an instructor, somebody that used to instruct and knows the instruction very well, so they can make those informed decisions on what's best for the student.
And so this program that is part of, they have to test out in order to know.
Yes, they have to, the ELPA, they have to test out so they can be reclassified. And once they are reclassified, it's like, yay, they get a letter. We call the parents and get a letter sent home, letting them know that they've been reclassified and they no longer have to take English language development classes.
And what's the percentage of our students who continue to be part of the program?
Oh my gosh, I have that data at the top of my head right now.
And
It's really not that many at the high school. Oh gosh, I want to say, is it, when do you remember? I can get that back for you. I mean, that's good data. That's probably something that I can get to you at another
We can bring
time.
that back.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I asked is years ago, when I used to work at high school, I remember high school students being in the program and having to take classes, and so that kept them away from taking a whole class in college.
Mhm.
And so I'm just wondering.
Our numbers are going up a couple years, for several years, we were able to use a language assessment team in every building, and that was part of the language program coordinator's job, was to get a portfolio evidence. So if the students weren't able to pass the test, that they had a body of evidence showing that they would be proficient or be okay in English only, so we were able to reclassify them by using that portfolio. We're not allowed to do that anymore. I think it was like 3 years ago. 3 years ago, that was a big, upsetting for everyone, but the ODE, Oregon Department of Education, did not allow us to do that anymore. So they had to, if any way for them to get reclassified was to pass out of the test or decline services, which we don't really like them to do, but they can decline the services and then still take the test at the end starting in January, February till May, and take other classes.
What does that mean to decline services of that?
All it means is that they don't have to take a level, that the parent is saying the student does not have to take a leveled English language development class.
But we don't recommend that to families because we want them to.
We want to, I know, we don't recommend anything. What we try to do at the Welcome Center is give them information and informative information, educational, educate them in the process and what will happen and all of that. And then we let the parent make that informed decision.
It is not common for parents to decline services.
No, sometimes the kids are like Noemi said, they catch on that, hey, I want to take this class. I really want to take it. So I'm going to have my parents decline the class. So sometimes they will do that. And if they're taking other English classes, they're going to be okay, but it is important. The English language development class is there for a reason, and that's to help support students with their English language development. Specifically for that one term, not that it's not happening the rest of the day, because it should be happening the rest of the day in all the other English classes, but specifically for that time.
So if they don't ever test out, what does that mean?
Well, I'm hoping that by that time, it means that there's somehow we need to look into that student, gather evidence like a portfolio of their writing, their reading, looking more internally as to why are they not passing, what's going on, is it reading, is it writing, is it listening and speaking. What we've noticed from the high school, I know when I was helping the high school last year, 2 years ago with during COVID to test the kids here, they were not passing on their listening and speaking because they were embarrassed to talk. The moment that I separated them to different areas, then they were a lot better, and I got a lot more of the students to pass. So that's like one little strategy, but once you get to the middle school and high school, they're a lot more shy about that speaking part. So there's a lot of variables, but it's really just gathering a group of educators and getting together and looking at the portfolio or their work and seeing what is going on with the students.
And that would bring them to start asking this question.
Honestly, that should be happening every year. At the school site. That's something that I don't do at the district, but that the school should be looking at when they're looking right now with their multi-level intervention system. Like, what is it? Is it the language? Is it Spanish? Is it math? Is it what is it that the students need support in? Looking at data. And reading, math, language, ESOL, informal, formative, all those things.
So we feel like we're right staff now, the way it is with coordinators here working out of the.
I think that the knowledge that they brought from the building and being able to support them and knowing also the LPC part and knowing the Welcome Center is really good. I think that right now, it's my perception. I want to say that they're, happy and they feel like they're moving forward and progressing and especially really working hard on providing those processes and systems in place so that no student is ever left out and is properly placed so that the schools are able to meet their needs. So that's the big work right now. And they're excited about that just because it's like cleaning up and getting processes and systems in place that are in need of. A lot of cleanup to do right now.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sonia.
It looks like we have One board action item.
We'll call up Ivan Lay.
Good evening. As you see in the memo, these projects, the Lincoln Elementary School parking lot and the French Prairie windows, those were projects that had been previously approved that we moved forward on. We were able to get construction documents together, get a proper procurement taken care of, as highlighted here in the background. We bid the project on September 9th. We received bids on the 29th. The apparent low bidder was Triplet Wellman. We announced an intent to award to exercise a protest period, which ended last Friday. So now I'd like to move forward and provide them a notice to proceed. Award them the contract at $840,000 as the low bidder on the project. We received two bids. The other bid was from Woodburn Construction at $1,024,000.
It's a foot Roman company. Did we tend to, I feel like I recognize the name. Did we tend to, complete many of our projects?
Since I've been here, they have worked on Washington Elementary. They have done seismic retrofits at Lincoln and Washington. They built Success High School. And they did the CTE addition at the high school, an expansion.
So I know it always goes to the lowest bidder, but I'm always interested about how
They've done a really good job for us here in the district. We went through a RFP process to pre-qualify contractors. On that list, we have contractors like Bremick, Emmerich, Robinson Construction, Woodburn Construction, Perlo, and also Triplet Wellman. I think I'm missing somebody. Kirby Naglhart. Those were all contractors that we pre-qualified to do work for the district. And this offering was made available to that exclusive list of 10. 3 actually showed up for this offering. J&C, I think, was the other contractor. They decided not to offer a bid. So for whatever reason, they weren't interested.
Is this relatively what we were expecting it to come in?
Yes, it's right in the ballpark.
Any other comments, questions? For Ivan? Okay, so. Someone want to move?
I need to approve. I don't know if the Roman constructing a new parking lot at Lincoln Elementary and replacing the window at French Prairie. Contract value being $800,000.
For a second?
She's muted.
Second, sorry.
Motion has been seconded. Any further discussion? Nope. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion has passed. And we agree to this. And sign it?
Yeah, we'll have to sign it.
Oh, just have to sign? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Moving to.
We'll actually recess because we'll have until 7 o'clock. And then,
So we will now recess. Go into recess until 7 o'clock. The board has decided to take no action on superintendent's recommendation for this moment. We will now adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Bye, Laura. Bye, Anthony.
Buenas noches. Gracias. Thank you.
Yes. Good night.